Hi there, welcome to this week's workplace series. At some stage in your career, you'll likely have looked around you and wondered, how did that person get there? How is it that they managed to get promoted to that level of seniority in the organization? There's a saying that everyone rises to their own level of incompetence, and it's a concept that was initially developed by Canadian educator and author Laurence J Peter, and he published it in his book, The Peter Principle, which he co-authored with the Canadian playwright and lecturer Raymond Hull. In the book, they write about, and I quote, "As individuals, we tend to climb to our levels of incompetence. We behave as though up is better and more is better. And yet, all around us, we see the tragic victims of this mindless escalation." End of quote. In the book, they outline the hazards that are associated with climbing that corporate ladder, including ulcers, alcoholism, allergies, and what they refer to as tabulatory gigantism, which apparently is an obsession with having a bigger desk than your colleagues. Now, whether the book was part satire is open to debate, and Dr. Peter did say at one point that he was kind of kidding, but about what, I'm not entirely sure. Now, I'm not so cynical to believe that everyone rises to their level of incompetence. However, like you, I've seen situations where people are promoted into roles for which they're unsuited. So too have researchers. In a study that was reported in the US National Bureau of Economic Research, which looked at 214 organizations and 1,500 employees in sales roles, the researchers found many evidence of this occurring. And the data found that the better sales representative a person was, the more likely they were to be promoted into a management role. However, and this is the catch, their promotion then negatively affected that person's new team members. The research revealed that the managers who had high sales performance before they were promoted then saw a 7.5% decline in the sales performance of their new subordinates. In contrast, for the managers whose prior sales performance was relatively poor, there was actually a significant improvement in their new subordinates' performance. What this was showing is that just because someone was good at sales didn't necessarily translate into them being a good leader. Just because someone's good at the output, good at delivering what might be the results in a prior role, doesn't mean they're going to be a good leader. One of the problems that we face is when we're hiring, we usually look at the person's performance in that prior role rather than the skills they might need in that future role that they're applying for. There can also be lots of other factors that impact whether someone actually thrives in that new position. For example, personal circumstances, the level of support that they receive from their new boss, the coaching that they might receive, whether there are new internal stakeholders, whether there are sort of a shift in the context when they move to that new position. So firstly, you want to challenge yourself. You want to consider who's accountable. Who's accountable for making that situation work when someone moves into a new role? Now, I was having this debate with a friend of mine the other day because, it's easy to say it's purely the responsibility of the person who accepted the role. The logic being, well, they should only apply for that role. They should only accept it if they can actually fulfill the requirements. But as you'd expect, there's more to it than that. Circumstances can change, and so too can expectations. The hiring manager plays a role. They hired the person. So what are they doing to help ensure that that person is successful? Everyone plays a role, both the person who applied for the role and the person who hired that person. Firstly, if you're seeking a promotion, you want to challenge yourself. You want to consider, as you move up that corporate ladder, are you ready for it? And understand, really dig into it. Why are you seeking that promotion? Is it for status, learning, challenge, financial reward, or something else? Be clear on your why so that you can get alignment between your purpose and whether you're going to get that purpose from that new role. Then consider, do you have the capacity, the capability to fulfill the expectations of the role? While you don't need all the skills, you certainly need some of them, and you need that ability, the capacity, and the willingness to learn. Next, consider the support that you might need to be successful in that new role. This includes resources that you might need, the time that you've got to devote to new learning, the headspace that you need to be when you're moving into that new role. As I wrote about in my book, Career Leap, How to Reinvent and Liberate Your Career, there are various studies that show between 35 to 40% of senior hires fail within the first 18 months of that new role. That's a staggering statistic. So you've got to be ready. You've got to be prepared to do the work. And one of the critical elements is making sure that your relationship with your new boss works. As Professor Michael Watkins writes in his book, The First 90 Days, an absolute must-read book when you're moving into new roles, it's up to you to make that relationship work. And he outlines a few things. Firstly, take 100% responsibility for making sure that that relationship works. Clarify mutual expectations early and often. So this is not just do it once, you want to do it multiple times. You want to negotiate timelines for your work. You want to aim for quick wins, early wins in areas that are critical to your boss so they can see that you're doing a good job. You want to pursue good feedback from those opinions from people that your boss respects and admires. Now, there are only a few of the elements to consider. As I said, read the book. It's really helpful. Now, if you're seeking to promote someone, hire someone into a role, be supportive. As the hiring manager, you need to challenge yourself and ask yourself questions. For example, are you hiring the best suited person? Or are you somehow settling because you just can't really find the right person for the role? Or are you being overly influenced by other people's opinions? I've seen situations where people have been promoted into positions to fill a vacancy purely because no one else was available. And from the outset, that hiring manager had reservations about the person. Yet they haven't provided appropriate support, nor have other people within the organization. And in that way, the person's being set up to fail. Same too, I've seen situations where people have been hired purely because they've been recommended by senior management. Once again, they're not being provided with the support that they need to succeed. So as the hiring manager, be really clear. What are you looking for in that role? What's the level of support that you're prepared to provide? Then, if someone steps into the role and it's not working for whatever reason, you need to re-challenge yourself. There might be other mitigating circumstances at play. Might be some leadership problems at your end, but there might also be some ingrained patterns of behavior that you need to help coach and work with your new team member on. Maybe there's a temporary blip in their performance because of other external pressures, something that's happening in their personal life. So here's a few questions to consider. Are there events that are occurring in their personal life that might be causing stress or distraction? Is there an unusually high level of work coming through? Have deadlines been contracted in a way that's increasing the level of stress? Is there a resource shortfall so that the person's working in a team, but actually they don't really have enough people in that team to get what needs to get done? Are they somehow overworked, exhausted, stressed? Are there organizational changes underway which are creating uncertainty and impacting how they turn up? And lastly, are there other workplace changes or distractions that can be impacting their behavior? Now, asking those questions, seeking answers, none of that is about excusing behavior. It is about, though, being fair and recognizing that everyone is human and that sometimes people aren't at their best when external pressures overwhelm them. Also, you've hired the person, so it's in your best interest to do what you can do to help them succeed. And so lastly, you really want to consider, are you spending enough time providing the clarity they need around what it is they do, around the expectations you have as to the quality of the work and as to what's important? And are you providing that coaching support so that they can be a very valuable member of your team? Lots to consider this week. Have a great week. I'll see you next week.